Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. Noni Davis, and here we are again for this Dr. Noni Shule. I am a legacy owner of St. C Academy. I always like to introduce myself and give thanks to my elders who established a school for me, with me, 1996. And next week, is it next week? It's the week after that we will be celebrating our 30th anniversary here in this community, St. C Academy. Um, I am continuing the journey with Where Do We Go From Here with Dr. King, and I'll probably have at least two more sessions with this book in honor of Black History Month. Even though we celebrate Black History Month Black History every day, 365. But this month I wanted to focus on Dr. King, and I tell you, it's so apropos for where we are right now in this stage of the American history. People not learning from the mistakes that we've already done in the past. So I'm going to start with page 82 today. This is about Lincoln and his, interaction with freedom for African Americans, or better yet, the way we had to free ourselves. So on page 82, I started as early as 1837 as a state legislator. Lincoln referred to the injustice and practicality of slavery. Later, he wrote of the physical differences between blacks and whites and made it clear that he felt whites were superior. At times, he concluded that the white man could not live with the Negro. This accounted for his conviction that the only answer to the problem was to colonize the black man, send him back to Africa, or to the West Indies or some other isolated spot. Mind you, you brought us over here. So anyway, this view was still in his mind toward the height of the Civil War. Delegation after delegation, the Quakers above all, great abolitionists like Charles Sumner, Horace Greeley, and William Lloyd Garrison pleaded with Lincoln to free the slaves, but he was firm in his resistance. Frederick Douglass, of towering grandeur, sound judgment, and militant initiative, sought without success to persuade Lincoln that slavery, not merely the preservation of the Union, was at the root of the war. And at the time, Lincoln could not see it. I'm going to finish reading it, and then I'm going to go back to Dr. Martin Delany, because we really need to understand who Dr. Martin Delany, how he did influence. And I don't know, I didn't see a mention of him, but in this book. But anyway, I'm going to bring it in. A civil war raged within Lincoln's own soul, a tension between the Dr. Jekyll of freedom and the Mr. Hyde of slavery, a struggle that, like that of Plato's charioteer, with two headstrong horses, each pulling in different directions. Morally, Lincoln was for Black emancipation, but emotionally, like most of his white contemporaries, he was for a long time unable to act in accordance with his conscience. But Lincoln was basically honest and willing to admit his confusions. He saw that the nation could not survive half slave and half free, and he said, if we could first know where we are and whither we are trending, we could better judge what to do and how to do it. Dr. Martin Delany has an answer. Fortunately for the nation, he finally came to see whither we were tending. And on January 1st, 1863, he passed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the Negro from the bondage of chattel slavery in the Confederacy, the Confederate States of which he had no control. Crazy. By the concrete act of courage, his reservations of the past were overshadowed. The conclusion of his search is embodied in these words: in giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free. Honorable alike is what we give and what we preserve. The significance of the Emancipation Proclamation was described by Frederick Douglass in these words: unquestionably, for weal or for woe, the 1st of January is to be the most memorable day in American annals. The 4th of July was great, but the 1st of January, when we consider it in all its relations and bearings, is incomparably greater. The one had respect to the mere political birth of a nation. The last concerns the national life and character, and is to determine whether that life and character shall be radiantly glorious with all high and noble virtues, or infamously blackened forever. January 1st for African Americans, enslaved Africans in this country, was one of the most horrific days of the year, because that was the day that our ancestors were sold. Families were split apart because white folks had to settle their debt. And so it was a horrifying day. People didn't know who was going to be sold. They could have probably speculated. There may have been rumor, but folks would lose their family members on this day. And so it was also one of the worst days. So maybe in light of this, it may have provided, like in Frederick Douglass' ways, it was infamously black and forevermore. It would have been horrible if he kind of took the sting out of it. So, but underneath the ambivalence of white America toward the Negro still lurked with painful persistence. With all the beautiful promise that Douglass saw in the Emancipation Proclamation, he soon found that it left the Negro with only abstract freedom. 4 million new liberated slaves found themselves with no bread to eat, no land to cultivate, uh, no shelter to cover their heads. It was like freeing a man who had been unjustly imprisoned for years and on discovering his innocence, sending him out with no bus fare to get home, no suit to cover his body, no financial compensation to atone for his long years of incarceration, and to help him get a sound footing in society, sending him out with only the assertion, "Now you are free." What greater injustice could society perpetrate, sorry. All the moral voices of the universe, all the codes of sound jurisprudence would rise up with condemnation of as such an act. Yet this is exactly what America did to the Negro. In 1863, the Negro was given abstract freedom expressed in luminous rhetoric. If we giving y'all enough, we hear that all the time. You're free, just go away. But in an agrarian economy, he was given no land to make liberation concrete. After the war, the government granted white settlers welfare without cost, millions of acres of land in the West, welfare, thus providing America's new white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. Oh my goodness, they got help. But at the same time, its oldest peasantry, the Negro, was denied everything but a legal status he could not use, could not consolidate, could not even defend. And as Frederick Douglass came to say, emancipation granted the Negro freedom to hunger, freedom to winter amid the rains of heaven. Emancipation was freedom and famine at the same time. The inscription on the Statue of Liberty refers to America as the mother of exiles. The tragedy is that while America became the mother of her white exiles, she evinced no motherly concern for love or love for her exiles from Africa. It is no wonder that out of despair and estrangement, the Negro cries out in one of his sorrow songs, "Sometimes I feel like a motherless child." The marvel is, as Frederick Douglass once said, that Negroes are still alive. Yes, we still here. We still here. We still here. Now to 1983. So here, I've talked about Dr. Martin Delaney is one of my favorite. He is the father of black, what do they call it? The father of the black African nationalism. And so here he is. So in 1863, sorry, in 1863, Dr. Martin Delaney went to see this bruh. And he said, look, let's see what he said. He said, this act for, wait a minute, okay, wait a minute. I don't think I had underlined it. Daggone. Oh, here it is. He said, I propose, sir, So Lincoln and Delaney at length in Major Delaney's own language, Delaney suggested to the president, I propose, sir, an army of blacks, commanded entirely by black officers, except such whites as may volunteer to serve. This army to penetrate through the heart of the South and make conquest with the banner of emancipation unfurled, proclaiming freedom as they go, sustaining and protecting it by arming the emancipated, taking them as fresh troops, and leaving a few veterans among the new freemen when occasion requires, keeping this banner unfurled until every slave is free according to the letter of your proclamation. I would also take from those already in the service all that are competent for commission officers and establish at once in the South a camp of instructions. By this, we could have in about 3 months an army of 40,000 blacks in motion, the presence of which anywhere would itself be a powerful, would be a power irresistible. You should have an army of blacks, President Lincoln, commanded entirely by blacks, the sight of which is required to give confidence to the slaves and retain them to the Union, stop foreign intervention, and speedily bring the war to a close. When I read this, I was like, oh my God. Okay, this is what Martin Delaney said to Lincoln. And this was Lincoln's response. This is the very thing I have been looking for and hoping for, but nobody offered it. I hoped and prayed for it, but till now, it has never been proposed. And when I issued my Emancipation Proclamation, I had this thing in contemplation. Let me tell you, Dr. Martin Delaney became the first. He was the first. Let's see, where does it say? He became the first major in the military. The first. Where does it say it? Yeah, he was the first major, and he became a major in 1865. He was declared a major, but he went into battle with Lincoln, leading the troops in 1863, and the war was over by 1864. April 1865. They finished that thing. Them brothers finished that thing. So, as I continue to read Dr. King's Where Do We Go From Here? From Chaos to Or Community, it is poignant to see that the entity in the White House is literally following the white supremacist playbook. And so we know he is, this, even Lincoln wasn't ready for us to be free. But they have consistently taken us through these ebbs and flows. Africans get a little bit of freedom, here comes the black backlash. We get a little freedom, here comes the backlash. Now here come these brown people over here. Oh my God, y'all doing too much. But they've always responded to the import of these people.
I'm just going to ask you something because as you talk about that book, and like I said, I definitely am a fan of that book and everything. But I was saying a video recently on Instagram, and it was something that I thought you might be interested in. It was talking about how sometimes when we take pictures, we don't think that we're as photographic or as photogenic as we think we should be. But apparently, there was a woman that Kodak modeled after, which was this woman named Shirley, and Shirley was like this blonde woman, so they actually modeled her after her. So, and that's why the tone when you take pictures with the old Kodak camera, we didn't always come out all that great and everything like
Right,
that.
right,
So
right.
Instagram posted I saw, and they said that they're trying to do better with AI, but even the early inventors of AI were going by that same model. So some of this racism was existed even in some of these what are supposedly
It's
innocent industries like the photography industry
exactly,
and everything like
exactly.
that.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you because I was watching that on Instagram and
Yeah.
everything. And then I saw one with Paul Mooney where he was talking about that whole thing with that person in the White House and his imagery of Trump as I mean not Trump, but the Obamas as apes and everything. But he had done a routine back in 1989 where he was talking about if you look at a monkey and if you look at a monkey, you'll see that they usually have a certain kind of feature and everything like that, and they usually got bright eyes and
I saw
everything
it.
like that. So it was a routine that Paul Mooney did, basically saying that if anybody's looking like a monkey, it's more the other race and everything like that. So I don't know if you ever seen that routine, but I
Straight hair, the
yeah,
straight
straight hair. He did
lip.
mention the straight hair and the lips and everything
It's
like that,
crazy.
but it
What
was
are
a Paul
they
Mooney
talking
routine
about?
that he did.
Who are they talking about? Who are they talking about anyway?
Yeah. But I just saw those two Instagrams and I thought about you when I was watching them and everything like that. So I just wanted to bring them in to your attention, but particularly the one around Kodak and that imagery and all
Yes,
along those lines.
yes. I mean, everything was making making the worst of us
Right.
always, and we're like, what? Anyway, this
Yeah.
obsession, it's crazy.
It's
But
crazy.
anyway,
So I'll let you get back. I just wanted to share
okay,
those two with you.
thank you. Um, so thank you, Mark. That is hilarious. But So what I have here today is I just wanted to go over these immigration policies and this anti policies that they have had since the first one was in 1798. So that was called the Alien and Sedition Act of 1798. And this was, believe it or not, now we all know that the French were the people who helped us to win the Revolutionary War. They helped us to fight the British, right? So, uh-oh.
Sorry to bother you again, but let's go share one other video that I had that was really interesting. I was watching on some Instagram, but there was a gentleman, and it was like one of them roundtable talks that exist on Instagram and YouTube and everything. There was a gentleman that actually made a good point to your point and everything like that. But he was talking about how, and it was I think three or four people on the panel, but they were thinking that he was like Cuban. He was like that he was black first, and then he was Cuban second. Because one of the things that he brought up was that just like the other folks that came here to the United States, he was dropped off in the slave trade in the Caribbean nation. So he said that he was black first and Cuban second. Because he was like, I thought you, because I think some of the other brothers and sisters like, I thought you were Cuban. He's like, I am Cuban, but I'm black first and everything. He mentioned
Right,
the fact
right,
of having
right.
those African roots because like just like they dropped a lot of the slaves off in the Americas, they also dropped them off in the Caribbean islands as well.
Oh, I mean, some of us on the same boat, and they
Right.
just said, "Okay, we stop here, we stop here, we stop."
Right.
So we're doing this ADOS and FBA,
Mhm.
Foundation of Black Americans. The thing is that we all in America because America's from Chile or Argentina all the way to Canada, right?
Right.
And we really need to be just suing Europe.
And that's what he was talking about because he even brought up. He said there's a lot of Afro Brazilians, Afro Cubans, Afro Dominicans, and even like you said, Afro Canadians, and a bunch of other things. But at the end of the day, and this gentleman was saying, I forgot who it was. It might have been somebody that was well known, but he was like, at the end of the day, I'm black.
Yeah, we all are, and we need to have a collective case. And I understand these days. Well, we just want to do with America, but what are you talking about?
Right.
America didn't come around until 1760. 1776.
1776 because they're celebrating 250 years this
Yeah,
year,
yeah,
and
yeah.
of course,
So what are you talking about? We need to go after England
right.
and France and Portugal and Spain, and we need to just bankrupt
And don't
Europe.
forget Italy. Don't forget Italy. Italy was
And
part of the
Italy,
slave trade.
oh, okay, right, and Germany and
Mhm.
all those people. I mean, the Dutch, the Netherlands, all of them, get everybody, and then just take what you can from them, or better yet, rebuild the Mayflower and send for home. Anyway, anyway, but so the Alien and Sedition Act was to keep. They got tired of the French after the French had helped them win their independence, and so what was it 20 years later, maybe 22 because it was 1798. So and they said they tried to stop the French and the Irish from coming into America during the French Revolutionary War, and they accused their cousins, the French and the Irish, of bringing political disease to to America. Wow. Um, to American society, the first immigration policy was to get rid of or stop the French and the Irish from coming over here. Mind you, they had the Irish over here as the first indentured servants. Wow, y'all. And so we can't be surprised. We cannot be surprised at what these people do, the stuff that they will do. So just imagine the immigrants controlling the number of white immigrants in their country. What? He's a white, all y'all are immigrants. But so the first immigration policy was against France and the French and the Irish. So the Alien and Sedition Act was of Act of 1798. 1798 consisted of four laws. So the first one was the Naturalization Act, residency for citizenship. They made it that you had to be in America for from 5 years at first to 14 years before you get it become a citizen. Then the Alien Friends Act, the president could deport any non-citizen he deemed dangerous with no hearing or specific charges required. The Alien Enemies Act, the president could apprehend and remove non-citizens from hostile nations during declared war. The Sedition Act criminalized false, scandalous, and malicious writing against the government, effectively banning dissent, contrary to the First Amendment. Three of these laws were eliminated, but the second one, the Alien Enemies Act, I think it still was used to get Maduro. They said that doing these drug cartels over there in Venezuela against America. Lies, lies, lies. But they used the Alien Enemies Act to go in there and arrest him. So hopefully, so what happened is that Thomas Jefferson, when he got elected in 1800, he dismantled all of those. The Alien Sedition Act, he got rid of that. The Naturalization Act and the Alien Friends Act, he got rid of all of them. The Sedition Act, he got all of those out. But the Alien Enemies Act is still on the books. So then, after we did all that, we got the Know Nothing movement, and that was from the 1840s to the 1850s. And now this time they're anti-Catholic. And once again, the Irish, and this time the Germans, needed to stop coming to America because they were bringing famine and political unrest. They were trying to come here because of famine and political unrest, but they said They had the anti-Catholic conspiracy stating that Catholics worship the Pope. I'm sorry, I have to stand corrected. The Pope, and would follow a foreign monarch over the American Constitution and the president. So they said, okay, we can't have these Catholic people in here because they're gonna say if the Pope says don't do it, they're gonna listen to him. And it doesn't matter what the Constitution says. So now they're going to stop the Germans and the Irish. Why are the Irish getting messed up so much? That's crazy. I wonder if these Irish know that this man was doing this. Okay, so now the next one was and let me continue with the Know Nothing Party. So the Know Nothing Party was called the Know Nothing Party because they were part of these secret societies. And if anybody who tried to ask them any questions, where are you affiliated? What are you doing? What do you think about it? So they like, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything about it. And so they kept their political views undercover. But what did they do? Um, they eventually, came out as they got more power. And so, just like the MAGA movement, the Tea Party movement, and all of these, they began to gain popularity. And they got their people in the White House. But what happened was just what the same the argument was Western civilization. They felt like these people, these brown and black immigrants, should be rejected in return because their values don't align with Western culture. Well, that's the same way they felt about the Germans, the same way they felt about the Irish, the same way they felt about the French, that their value system was oppositional to America, and they didn't, they because they were we were the Protestants, America was the Protestants, the Anglo Saxons, and then this rugged individualism, which was this barbaric idea of capitalism out of control. So now it's against the Muslims and the Africans and the brown immigrants and Asians and Hindu, but all white European immigrants are welcome now. So it's flipped again. So now it's just black people and brown people. Now they also did not last long. Their power was they said like Trump were violent. Oh, they were violent and gained political power, and all immigrants had to wait 21 years before they could become a citizen. And then what happened, what came along was a civil war. So the civil war came along and destroyed the movement, because now instead of it being racial, it became territorial. So if you were in the North, or you were pro slavery or anti slavery, or pro industry and anti industry, that's how it became North versus South. So that's how that ended. Okay, so then they had the Chinese Exclusion Act. And this was crazy because they were like, "Oh, y'all, we're gonna come over here. Please help us build the railroads." And the Africans were there. The newly freed Africans were out there too, helping the Chinese, or helping Europeans to build these railroads, cross national railroads, right? International railroads. And so what did they do? After, as soon as they finished building these railroads, they were like, "Y'all still here? I need to go back to China." And so and the Chinese are like, "Well, we've been we've been born here and everything," but they said, "But oh no, you guys are drug addicts, and your women are prostitutes. I mean, it's crazy. And you're unclean, and we don't like the food you eat, and you're uncivilized, and you're un-American." So they banned the Chinese and created an illegal immigrant. This is when they created the illegal immigrant category. And then in 1924, they came up with the National Origins Act. And this stupid law said that Europe was the engine of all human civilization. They just stuck on this mess that it was them. So this time they said, if you from the Mediterranean, y'all can't come over here. And y'all are causing race suicide. And so, it's that same thing, white replacement theory. And so they were like, if you from the Midwest, I mean Mediterranean, so that's going to be what, that could be Italy and Greece and Turkey and Iran and Iraq and all those places, who are circle, his Jewish people, Israel, Jordan, all of that. They said, "Y'all can't come over here because y'all are messing it up for the real white people." And so then what? Oh, and so they created a code. They said, we're gonna let 2% of y'all come in. And so once we met the 2% quota, nobody else could come in. And so that was crazy. And then this foolishness led to Operation Wetback in 1954. And in that one, they dispelled Mexican laborers. Now, if you Mexican, this is these people's this is their country. And we are kicking them out of their own country. They were literally US citizens, and they were just picking these people up and taking them to the Mexican border and just rounding up folks. And very similar to what we're doing right now, just rounding up folks. And some of these people are American citizens, and they don't care. They just send them out. And then they had Proposition 187 in 1984. And this one was the claim that the illegal immigrants were bankrupting California. And it was failed and it overturned. And so, look, every time they do this stuff, it always falls apart. So now the beast in the White House is destroying our economy with all this deportation nonsense, and our economy thrives off of immigrant labor. And of course, I blame white farmers for abusing these people and not paying them fair wages and all that, because that's what they were saying. They said they're undermining the economy because their wages are so low. Well, who's paying them the low wages? It's the business people are the ones that are giving these people this little $5, $10, whatever, and not wanting to pay. I mean, wait a minute, Georgia, I think was only $5.25 as the minimum wage, and North Carolina is $7.25, $7.50, something ridiculous. What do you mean? You paying these people under the middle the wage? You know, what are we doing? And so they're not draining our culture. People don't want to pay folks, and so and you're blaming the immigrants instead of blaming the people who are paying them this stuff, or not paying them, or lowering the wages. And so the immigrants are all, and then there's this false narrative. These people are adding to our economy and adding. They said we are losing billions of dollars because they are no longer, we don't have this tax base. But the point was never about making this thing better for them. So just like these policies have failed in the past, we are already watching their decline, the lack of support, and the absurdity of the economic impact. So America is just doing what it does, and it fails. And it fails miserably. And so I just give thanks. Africans built this country. Our ancestors built under extreme duress in this land, and it belongs to indigenous people and who stole the land. And the thieves have always felt like they had a right to decide who could be here and who couldn't, and who they and they've treated everybody, even their own people, like trash. And every time they get they have a decline in their population, then we got to regroup. So now we're gonna let the lighter skinned people come in here, as long as they're not Muslim, or as long as they're not deeply tan like Iranian and Iraqi. And so whiteness, when it becomes inconvenient for creating barriers between the wealthy and white hierarchy, the brown and black people, that's when they will go for this stuff. And it seems that this generation is finally realizing that, I'm gonna have to talk about that next week, what Baba Dick Gregory predicted in the 1960s. And so I'm going to talk about that next week. And so Ashe.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I know my mother.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can play the drum.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Cia student.